Hi, welcome all. As she said, the panelists can't get better, so we have the best in the business. The topic is bridging the Olympic gap. As you all know, India with its huge population has been an underachiever when it comes to Olympics. People say we have a huge population, but where are the numbers? But Tokyo Olympics, we had the best hall. So and the hope is India can get better. But how to do it? What is lacking? Is the infrastructure better? Is the grassroots level how it is? At the elite level, do you have the scientific and the best training? So to answer these questions, we have Sharath Kamal, Ramesh Krishnan, Sathiyan and Mariyappan. So we'll start with an easy question. So tell us about your Olympic experience. You've been to Barcelona and all. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Kirti. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for inviting me to be here. And I'm also happy that the Hindu group is organizing this conclave today. Coming back to your question about Olympics, tennis has been part of the Olympics many years ago. I think about 100 years ago it was part of the Olympics. But it made a re-entry sometime in the 1980s. 84 it was a demonstration sport. And then from 88 onwards it's been a regular sport. And I come from a generation where I did not grow up with tennis being a part of the Olympics. So it is something that as I grew, it grew on me also. But I'm of the firm opinion that it is, after all, it is the biggest sporting event. And it is very nice that once tennis is a part of it, I think it gets a lot of boost and an impetus. And I feel the countries that have gone on to host the Olympics have really done well. So when you look at today's players, the Olympics definitely has a very important importance to them. So it's very much a part and parcel of the Olympic Games now.
Yeah, Sharath, you played for Olympics starting with Athens, 2004. So we have played a lot of pro tours and national championships and across the globe. So what is it Olympics? When you go to Olympics, the village, they say a lot of, you get goosebumps, butterflies in your stomach. So go through that.
Well, for me, the Olympics is incomparable to a World Championships or even to the Commonwealth Games or Asian Games, because the whole world is preparing for the Olympic Games, and not everybody gets to qualify or play the Olympic Games. The kind of preparation that goes into the Olympic Games and the way, the expectations and the whole scenario around the Olympics is really big. So for me, when I first went into the Athens Olympics, when I qualified, I really didn't know the meaning of what is it to be at the Olympic Games. So I just qualified. I went for the qualification tournament. I qualified. It just happened. So I played well. Just going into the Athens Olympics, going with the contingent, you see big names. That was the first time I saw Leander Paes, Mahesh Bhupati, Rajwardhan Rathod was there, and tennis stars, badminton stars, then archery, and everybody. So once I started boarding the flight and getting into the village, that is when I understood, wow, this is something which is very special. And for me, it really hit me when I met in the village, when I met the NBA All-Star team, and I could dine. Actually, I could sit 2 chairs away from Roger Federer and Andy Roddick and eat my lunch. So those are moments when you feel, wow, okay, I'm also one among them now. You don't get to have that. But that was my first Olympics. So only after that, over the years, I've understood how do you actually prepare for these kind of big tournaments, and what should be the mental makeup, and how long does it actually take for you to prepare, to hit that peak. So I'm really happy that I could do that in the 4th Olympic Games in Tokyo. It took me a long time. Beijing was fine. Rio again didn't go on very well. And Tokyo was when I really thought.
Yeah, stretching more long, it was wonderful.
Yeah, that match there. And the form and the whole, the shape, let's say. I was in the zone during the Olympics, and I'm really happy that I could do that at the biggest sporting event.
Thank you. Sathiyan, please. Yeah, you made your debut in Tokyo Olympics. Go through that.
Like Sharath rightly said, Olympic Games was it's a different ball game. I think for me, I was looking up to Olympics right from my childhood, right from seeing Sharath and a lot of players playing in 2004, and then those 5 rings have been very special to me. And 1 month to the qualification, and I was super excited, and the pandemic struck, and completely disappointed. It was a very tough phase, but I think the build-up to the Olympics, the media, my preparation, that was something which was getting onto my nerves. That butterflies every time I went on to train during the Olympic phase. That was a very different feeling, like how it's going to be when I get into the Olympic arena. So those things were running continuously in my mind. I think that's what I think was the key. And playing first time in an Olympic games was a different feeling. And for me, I was awestruck by the massiveness of the players, seeing like Novak Djokovic and everyone just sitting casually and dining together like a family. That was a very different feeling. It was taking a lot of time for me to get used to it, feel normal. So I think Olympic Games playing for the first time, it's always going to be hard. I practiced quite a lot to feel normal, but it was as challenging definitely for an athlete, very different from a Commonwealth or Asian Games where a lot of athletes come. So at an Olympic Games is like the cream of the cream. So I mean, yes, I thoroughly enjoyed, though I could have gone around further. That match was quite close, but I think I played well given my circumstances and my first debut Olympics. So I'm hoping that next Olympics probably I'll feel the same butterflies, but I would perform better. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Mariyappan, welcome. சொல்லுங்கள், 2 ஒலிம்பிக்ஸு, 1 கோல்டு, 1 சில்வர். ஸோ இங்கே வெட்டரன் இப்போ. ஸோ சொல்லுங்கள், உங்கள் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் எப்படி இருந்தது? பேரா என்ன டிஃப்ரெண்ட்? ஹவ் இஸ் டிஃப்ரெண்ட் ஃப்ரம் அதர் ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ்?
அனைவருக்கும் மலை வணக்கம். பார்த்திங்கன்னா, நான் 2011லேயே பார்ட்டிசிபேஷன் பண்ணேன் நேஷ்னல்ஸ். அப்போ பார்த்திங்கன்னா எனக்கு கோல்டு மெடல் அடித்தேன். அப்புறம் 2012ல் ஒலிம்பிக்ஸ்க்கு நான் செலக்ட் ஆகினேன். அப்போ பார்த்திங்கன்னா எனக்கு பாஸ்போர்ட் கிடைக்காதனால மிஸ் ஆயிருச்சு. அதை விட்டுட்டு அதில் ஸ்டாப் பண்ணக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்லி கண்டினியூவாக காலேஜில் பார்ட்டிசிபேஷன் பண்ணேன். அதில் இன்டர் காலேஜ் அண்டு யூனிவர்சிட்டி லெவலில் மெடல் அடித்தேன். அதுக்கப்புறம் பார்த்திங்கன்னா 2015ல் ஒரு நேஷ்னல்ஸ் பார்ட்டிசிபேஷன் பண்ணேன். அதுலேயும் கோல்டு ஆச்சு. என் கோச் சத்யநாராயண் பார்த்துட்டு நல்லா பண்ணுற, இங்கே என்கரேஜ் பண்ணுன்னு சொல்லி கூப்பிட்டு பெங்களூரில் நல்லா ட்ரெயின் பண்ணார். ட்ரெயின் பண்ணி ஒலிம்பிக்ஸில் கோல்டு மெடல் அடித்தார். நான் கிரவுண்டு என்ட்ரி ஆகிற வரைக்குமே எனக்கு எப்படா கிரவுண்ட் விட்டு ஓடலான்னு தான் இருந்தது. ஏன்னா அவ்வளோ நடுக்கமாக இருந்தது ஃபஸ்ட் டைமு. அதுக்கப்புறம் நான் மெடல் அடித்ததுக்கப்புறம் பார்த்திங்கன்னா நிறையா பேர் வில்லேஜ் சைடுலேருந்து நிறையா ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் பர்சனுங்க நிறையா பேர் இப்போ பார்ட்டிசிபேஷன் பண்ணி நல்லா இப்போ ட்ரெயின் பண்ணிகிட்டு இருக்காங்க. பார்த்திங்கன்னா இப்போ செகண்டு டோக்கியோவிலும் நான் மெடல் அடித்தது ஒன்று. நிறையா பேர் இன்னும் இப்போ நிறைய பேர் செப்பரேட்டாக ட்ரைனிங் எடுத்து நல்லா ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் நல்லா கவர்மெண்ட்டும் சப்போர்ட் பண்ணி, ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் அத்தாரிட்டி ஆஃப் இந்தியா அதுவும் நல்லா சப்போர்ட் பண்ணி எல்லாம் ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ்மேனுக்கு என்னென்ன வேணுமோ ஃபெசிலிட்டிலாம் கொடுத்து நல்லா ட்ரெயின் பண்ணிகிட்டு இருக்காங்க. தேங்க்யூ.
Yeah, Ramesh, Barcelona Olympics, you reached the men's quarterfinals with Leander Paes, and Leander won a medal. After that, we celebrate now Sumit Nagal reached the second round. So after that, nobody has really gone on to win a medal after Leander Paes. So how difficult it is for tennis?
96 Leander won the medal in Olympics. I think Leander and Mahesh came very, very close in Athens also. So doubles has been the event where we've had the chance to do well. Other than that, unfortunately, we've not had the depth in singles.
Why?
Yes.
Any reasons you could attribute? You have seen, so.
Well, I mean, Olympics alone, I mean, we have not had people playing at the Wimbledon and French and all that. So I think it is, there's a clear lack of depth in the competition, especially in singles. So players have been gravitating more towards doubles and trying their hand at it. But there's no getting away from it that the quality players are not there.
Going back to grassroots? Going back to grassroots, is it?
Well, I think, about 40-50 years ago, we used to dominate in the Asian zone. But now other countries are doing very well. South Korea is doing well, Taiwan is doing very well. So I think while we are improving, you have to look at others, and everybody is improving at a faster rate. Sports is becoming that much more international. So the competition is toughening up. So while we are improving, I think we need to keep improving at a faster rate.
So happy with the talent coming up now, youngsters, you know, a lot of people are taking up tennis, but being an individual sport, do you think it's difficult to travel and more tournaments should be held in Asia and India? So you feel
Well,
that way?
that is a problem. I think the center of tennis has gravitated to Europe, so there's an inbuilt advantage. Europeans have a very big advantage to it. I think Australians are struggling, Americans are struggling, and so Indians are also struggling. It is, and even within India, when you look, suppose you want to go to Delhi or Bombay or wherever to travel, it's a long distance. So India, it's almost like a continent by itself. So for a kid to come through, the travel and the competition is not very accessible. So I think we'll have to start from that.
Thank you. Sharath, you've been a torchbearer for India for more than a decade, and you won more than half a dozen medals. And Asian Games, we won the medal in 2018. So looking forward for India to win an Olympic medal, so what needs to be done? How far it is possible?
What needs to be done? The guy on your left and the guy on the right should do our best at Paris to get that medal. Well, I think for Tokyo, the team qualification, we somehow slipped out on that one particular tournament. We played not just we both and Harmit Desai and the whole bunch, you know, Manav Thakur and everybody. The Indian team, men's team, has been consistently doing well. So my aim is, now that we won that Asian Games medal also, which, you know, the first time in 62 years, we've got that medal in 2018. Now, all that I hope is in Paris Olympic Games, first, primarily we need to qualify. So as a men team, we should be able to qualify, which this time I think we are ready. Sathiyan is doing fantastically well. I've been doing fine. I think as a team, we are doing good. And once we qualify at the Olympic Games, there are only going to be 16 teams. So we start off from the round of 16. So we need 3 good matches to get that medal. So which is very, very possible. And I hope, you know, if we are able to continue in the right direction, how we are going now with the support from TTFI and SAI and, you know, the SDAT and the whole ecosystem who are helping us, I think we should be able to get that medal in Paris Olympic Games.
Paris, it is possible, you think?
Yes. That's in that hope only I'm still continuing to go on. Yeah.
Thank you. Sathiyan, you've always been a very optimistic person, as I have seen, because last time I interviewed you about asking whether a medal is possible in the Asian Games. It is possible, and you went on to prove that. So your thoughts on medal at the Olympics later, or to Paris or later?
Yes, I think more than optimism, the belief in what you're doing, you know, that defines a sports person. So for me, definitely, when it was my first Asian Games, but I could see that we are there at the top. It's just that we need to believe that you know, we can compete against the top, and that itself is like half you know, winning the race. So I think that is what, you know, Shatna was saying, that we are now, you know, India is seen as a threat to most of the top countries. So if you go out to, I know once we remember we were in the Chinese National Training Hall, and there was a poster put up during the Olympic Games, biggest threat to China. And there was my face and Sharath's face right at the Chinese National Training Center wall. So I mean, so we are at the top, and yes, I mean, for an Olympic medal journey, I think we need a lot of players, you know, coming as a bunch. Now, that is very critical to get the cycle going. And I think we have now upgraded ourselves in the Asian Games, which is like in many Olympics. And 2024 Paris, we have a huge chance, like in men's team, one of the best teams, and we could, on a given day, I think we could even beat one of the best teams in the world. And certainly, me and Manika have a great chance in mixed doubles as well. So, I mean, we are world number 6 now, and 3 of them win a medal. We are like this close to winning a medal. So it's not about just the medal, but I think it's more that you have to, you know, start competing against the best players. And Olympic Games, you just play on a given day. So it also depends what kind of form you strike in the games and how you prepare for that. So we are really close, I think, to winning a medal at the pinnacle, and I'm sure 2024 will be the year, you know, table tennis makes history.
We will make history, hope so. மாரியப்ப நீங்கள் சொல்லுங்கள், 2 மெடல் வாங்கிட்டீங்க, டீம் எப்படி இருக்குது இந்த வாட்டி? லாஸ்ட் டைம் நல்லாவும் பண்ணோம், பேராலிம்பிக் அத்லீட்ஸ் எல்லாம் நல்லா பண்ணாங்க. ஸோ இந்த ஃபியூச்சர் பாரிஸ் ஒலிம்பிக்ஸில் உங்கள் இந்தியன் டீம் எக்ஸ்பெக்டேஷன்ஸ் என்ன, உங்களோட பர்சனலில் நீங்கள் என்ன நினைக்கிறீங்க, என்ன பண்ண முடியும்னு? திருப்பி இன்னொரு கோல்டு முடியுமா? நாங்கள்லாம் வாழலாமா?
பார்த்தீங்களா, இப்போ வந்து பேரா ஒலிம்பிக்ஸ்னால் இப்போ வந்து நிறையா பேர் எல்லாம் என்னன்னு தெரிஞ்சு நல்லா பார்ட்டிசிபேட் பண்ணி அச்சீவ் பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லி நிறையா பேர் வெளியே வந்திருக்காங்க. இப்போ பார்த்தீங்கன்னா டோக்கியோவில் வந்து 19 மெடல் வந்தது. நெக்ஸ்ட்டு வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா மெடல் ஒலிம்பிக்ஸில் வந்து ஒரு 80க்கு மேலே வரும். நல்லா இப்போ வந்து நல்லா ஆர்ட் ட்ரைனிங் நல்லா பண்ணிகிட்டு இருக்காங்க. எல்லோரும் வந்து வில்லேஜ் பீப்புள் எல்லோரும் வந்து வெளியே வந்து ட்ரைனிங்னா என்னன்னு தெரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டு நல்லா ட்ரைனிங்க்கு என்னென்ன வேணும் ஃபெசிலிட்டி எல்லாம் தெரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டு நல்லா ட்ரைனிங் பண்ணிகிட்டு இருக்காங்க. கண்டிப்பாக நெக்ஸ்ட் டைம் ஒரு 80 மெடலுக்கு மேலே கண்டிப்பாக வரும்.
பேரா ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் பற்றி சொல்லுங்கள். எவ்வளோ கஷ்டம் உங்களுக்கு? இப்போ உங்கள் ஊர்லேருந்து யாராவது வராங்களா? எப்படி எவ்வளோ கஷ்டம்? நார்மல் ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ்க்கு கஷ்டம் இல்லை டாப் லெவலுக்கு? ஸோ இந்த யங்ஸ்டர்ஸ், இந்த அடுத்த ஜென்ரேஷன்லாம் யங்ஸ்டர்ஸ்லாம் எப்படி இருக்காங்க உங்கள் ஊரில், இந்தியாவில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா? நீங்கள் நிறையா பார்த்துருப்பீங்க.
பார்த்திங்கன்னா நார்மலுக்கும் பேரா அத்லீட்டுக்கும் ரொம்ப கஷ்டம்தான். ஏன்னா நார்மல்னால் கிரவுண்டுக்கு போனால் கூட வாக்கிங்கில் வந்துடுவாங்க. ஆனால் பேரா அத்லீட் வந்து யாராலும் அவ்வளோ பண்ண முடியாது, ஒரு ஹெல்ப்பர் வேணும். அதனாலேயே நிறையா பேர் ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் பண்ணணுமா அப்படின்னு சொல்லி நல்லா யோசிச்சுட்டு இருந்தாங்க. பார்த்திங்கன்னா அவங்களுக்கும் பேரா அத்லெட்டிக்கும் சப்போர்ட் பண்ணி நல்லா ஹெல்ப் பண்ணுறதுக்கு நிறையா பேர் முன்னே வந்து எல்லாம் ஹெல்ப் பண்ணிகிட்டு இருக்காங்க. அதனால் இப்போ நிறையா பேர் வந்து பார்ட்டிசிபேஷன் பண்ணிகிட்டு இருக்காங்க. பார்த்திங்களா ஃபஸ்ட்டெல்லாம் பார்த்திங்கன்னா வில்லேஜ் பக்கம்லாம் பார்த்திங்கன்னா ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ் பேரா ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ்னாவே பயந்து ஓடிக்கிட்டு இருந்தாங்க. ஆனால் இப்போ பார்த்திங்கன்னா அவங்களே முன்னே வந்து என்ன பண்ணணும், எப்படி ட்ரைனிங் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி டெய்லியும் ஃபோன் பண்ணி கேட்டுட்ருக்காங்க.
உங்கள் எக்ஸ்பெக்டேஷன் சொல்லுங்கள். ஏன்னா இந்த நெக்ஸ்ட் ஒலிம்பிக்ஸில் நீங்கள் என்ன நினைக்கிறீங்க? கோல்டு மிஸ் ஆகிடுத்து போன வாட்டி. ஸோ இன்னும் தெம்பாக ப்ராக்டிஸ் பண்ணிகிட்டு இருக்கீங்களா? எப்படி என்ன எக்ஸ்பெக்டேஷன்ஸ்?
டோக்கியோவில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா எனக்கு வந்து ரொம்ப மழையில் வந்ததுனால கொஞ்சம் ஸ்லிப் ஆகிடுச்சு. அதனால் ஜம்ப் பண்ண முடியாமல் கோல்டு மிஸ் ஆகிடுச்சு. ஆனால் இந்த டைம் கண்டிப்பாக கோல்டு அடிச்சிடும்.
Big hand, please. Now getting on the tough question. So tough questions now. So we had easy questions.
Warm up so far.
Yeah. So look at the system, grassroots, the schools, the intercollegiate system in India. So it's not up to the mark. I mean that has been a big drawback in we reaching the pinnacle in the Olympics. The system is very poor, they say. So how do you think small things that we need to do, all stakeholders need to do?
Well, one thing is to provide good infrastructure. I think accessibility to grounds should be for everybody. I think that's a major problem. I live in the city, and the city, the access to open spaces, whether you want to walk, you want to run, any sporting activity depends on physical fitness. So I think we need to concentrate on the general physical fitness of our children. And to that, you need to have open spaces.
Open spaces.
Yeah, readily accessible. I think that is very important. And as I see in the city, the problem is you get out on the road and walk, there are two issues. One is traffic is an issue, another is stray dogs is an issue. I think the city will have to address these so that people can get out and walk and run and be out in the open more often.
But how is the system, Ramesh? You have seen, you have been from a backstage as an observer. How is the system in tennis when it comes to promoting at the grassroots level? Because there seems to be especially women, there's not enough players on the roster. So how do you see that?
Well, again, I think the competition, you need to have a lot more competition. I think last 2-3 years because of the COVID, tennis has certainly taken a back seat. We have not recovered from that yet, while the rest of the world have moved forward. But having said that, we need to have competition that is very accessible. Even within Chennai, it has to be localized, and so that children can go to school, attend full school, and then play matches either before or after school and in the weekend. I think we need to gear more and more towards that, so people are able to combine, at least for a little while, combine both their education and their sports, until they know that they're good enough where then one of them can, if the studies can take a back seat, and then they can concentrate more on the sports. I think we should give them the chance to do more, both for as long as they can.
You think something on the lines of BAT or NTA should be made more popular? That should be done? There's a need of the hour? A centralized academy so that all the young top
Well,
players...
academies is only one thing for training purposes, but you also need competition. I think you need lots of competition which is very accessible. And there are not enough tennis courts now. There are fewer tennis courts now in Chennai. So I think there are a whole lot of problems. I think we'll need a lot bigger conclave to discuss all these issues.
Thank you. Sharath, so TT has a very good system. So how does the system now, what needs to be done to get more people into the sport and train them to be international medalist?
See, when you look at table tennis at the grassroots level, every school, office, college has a table tennis table. So, as a kid, you would have tried your hand at table tennis. But the thing is, again, as Sir was saying, infrastructure is a major contributor to, to the success of the strong sporting nations. So, if we are able to have a stadium environment, where a big hall with around 20, 30 tables and accessibility for a lot of people around the city to come in there and play, your chances of finding talent are higher. So infrastructure plays a very, very important role. See, even when I was young, when we went into international tournaments and when we saw the stadium itself, we lost the match half there. Mentally you're like, oh, what am I going to do here? You're always playing in small halls, small academies with 3 tables, with a small, small low ceiling and a very, very congested place. So mentally, for you to get to that level, to the international level, I think the most important factor would be the infrastructure. If a lot of kids have the access to come to a stadium and play in the international conditions, then your ability to find talents and nurture that is the second problem. So that way, I think infrastructure has to be more accessible for all of us. And the second thing is, once you have lot of players coming in and playing, the structure and system to nurture these talents. If you by and large look at it, people here are all individual sports. We don't have team sports. That's because for a team sport to do well, you need a clear structure. You need to have a clear system which nourishes the whole, the players, the whole ecosystem. So for us, being individual players, we have the choice to, okay, we can go into Europe or we can go into Asia, play. Once we see a certain level of improvement, we can say, okay, now for me to go from, let's say, level 200 to 100, I need to do this and this. So it all depends on me. But, to have a team which is doing consistently well, we need to have a clear structure and a system which builds up the ecosystem around the players.
So has the system changed since you started in terms of infrastructure? As far as city is concerned,
of course, yes.
What has changed?
Of course, yes. That is the reason why the first Commonwealth Games in 2002, when table tennis was introduced, we had 2 medals. And 2018, we had 8 medals. So that is only because there's been a change in the structures, change in the system, the awareness and the access to knowledge for all the players and the coaches. So I think we are growing up. Still, I wouldn't say we are in the best thing now. We are growing in the right direction with a few, changes here and there. I think we surely will be one of the best in the world.
And your father and uncle, Srinivasa Rao and Muralidhar Rao, run an academy. So you have seen the kids. So how difficult or easy it is to spot a kid and train them at that level?
Well, I think you should be asking that to him. He's there. Yeah. No. Well, yes. I think every coach has the eye to look for talents, to spot the talent, but then a lot of factors go into the aim where, if that talent becomes a champion, a lot of factors. It's not just one. It's the parents, it's the school, it's the academy, the coaches, the way his friends, his or her friends. So there are a lot of factors which go into making a champion. So identifying talent is one, but making them into champions is the difficult task. So let's say even Sathiyan, as a very young kid, under 10, under 12 national champion, under 14 national champion, under 17 national champion, senior national champion. You don't see so many of them going through the rungs like what Sathiyan has done. So they somehow in the midway, academics come up, that you tend to shift into the other side, especially down south of India, academics plays a very important role. Even for Sathiyan himself, he had to become an engineer first and then a national champion. So that's how it works, you know. So all these factors have to be, you know, under let's say a controlled environment for a talent to become a champion.
Thank you. Yes, Sathiyan, you've been, as Sharath said, you've been playing from lowest level, now you're at the international level. So what are the challenges at the grassroots? What things need to be changed now, you see?
I mean, certainly, I was lucky to be in a generation to see the massive change from sport being seen as extracurricular to actually being called as a profession, I would say. I know that was a massive change. So, but I think in a good way that sport initially has to be started, extracurricular, because it's impossible that you go to a child and say, you have to win Olympics, that's why you have to play a sport. No, that's not the way of sport works. So you'll have to get more people first getting into playing sport, just like how we put them into a school, that is the system we're talking about. So in China, basically runs table tennis like a school. The people ask, what's the system in China? What is the system? Like how we have an education system. So we'll have to bring in the similar system, have a syllabus, have coaching expertise. Coaching is very, very critical. Imagine having schools without teachers. So we need to have massive stadiums. Of course, infrastructure is a very big key. We need to have people, teaching the kids in the right way, right from the childhood. So a lot of people are not taught the right way, and then it becomes big issue. You have to change your technique. So it's important to be taught the right way and uniformly across the country. So then, there is a very different kind of players, quality players coming in, year after year. So that is the system you will have to make, for a sports person to thrive.
Now it's not there. You see only international players becoming coaches. So for coaches, there's not a proper system. You think so?
I mean, I think we have to create a system for coaches to come in. So certainly, players are always been the fulcrum, but it's important that we have more former players. We have, in fact, there are very expert coaches who are not being great players, but still very good coaches. So they also can contribute. So we'll have to bring everyone into the system to see a massive growth. That is very, very critical. And I think in grassroots, we have been doing well, this Khelo India schemes and making school children compete amongst themselves, to know where they are and give them exposure to train. And I was, in spite of doing well, I was still in a dilemma, whether to take up sport as a profession. And, then I did the usual route of engineering, but somehow, I couldn't keep away from the sport. But I think things have changed. Now I think people won't ask you, if you're playing sport, if you're playing table tennis. People used to ask me if you're playing table tennis. That's okay. What do you actually do? So I think things have changed in the last few years, and certainly we are on the right track. Small things like exchange programs, those kind of things, how schools do. We need to do exchange programs, bring people here to know how to train and everything. But yeah, I think we're going in the right track. A few more years, and I'm sure we could see big strides in the world stage.
Beautiful. Mariyappan, சொல்லுங்க, நீங்கள் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா எப்படி கிராஸ் ரூட்லாம் பேரா ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ்க்கு எப்படி இருக்குது, என்னென்ன கஷ்டங்கள் நீங்கள் ஃபேஸ் பண்ணீங்க, என்னென்ன அட்ரஸ் பண்ணி எது நல்லா வரணும்னு நினைக்கிறீங்க நீங்கள்? இப்போ சிஸ்டம் சரியில்லை, எதாவது நல்லா பண்ணணும், நம்ம சிஸ்டம் மாறணும், கிராஸ் ரூட்டில் திங்ஸ் மாறணும், அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேட்டர்ஸ் நல்லா பண்ணணும், என்ன மெயின் ரீசன் என்ன சொல்லுவீங்க பேரா ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ்க்கு?
பார்த்தீங்களா, பேரா ஸ்போர்ட்ஸ்க்கு பார்த்திங்கன்னா இப்போ ட்ரெயின் பண்ணுறதுக்கு ஒரு நல்ல கோச்சஸ் வேணும், அவங்களுக்கு நல்ல நியூட்ரிஷன் வேணும், பார்த்திங்கன்னா அப்புறம் ஃபிசியோதெரப்பி வேணும். பார்த்திங்கன்னா அவங்களுக்கு டெய்லியும் எந்த மாதிரி ட்ரைனிங் பண்ணுறாங்க, அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு வீடியோ அனலிஸ்ட் பார்த்து அதை அனலைஸ் பண்ணி அவங்களுக்கு என்னென்ன தேவைப்படுதோ, அவங்க என்னென்ன மசில்ஸ் எல்லாம் வீக் இருக்குது எல்லாம் செக் பண்ணி அவங்களுக்கு தேவையானதெல்லாம் நல்லா கொடுத்தோம்னா கண்டிப்பாக அவங்க மெடல் அடிப்பாங்க சார்.
தேங்க்யூ.
தேங்க்யூ சார்.
Ramesh, coming back to you.
Yes,
so you've been a coach, you've been a player. If you have to pick out the major reasons for needs to be done to bridge the Olympic gap, as the title says, what are the major urgent issues that we need to tackle and face head on?
Well, I think you certainly have to get more people into the game. I think we've already spoken about this. if you get more and more numbers from there, the chances of you getting more talent is greater. So in tennis, I feel the numbers are not enough. There are not enough numbers playing. That is the big problem I see as far as tennis is concerned, is to get the numbers involved in it.
Sharath, what
If
needs
we have
to
to do it immediately, we can sign in a few Chinese players and give them the passports. But I think again, it's the process. It's a process that we need to trust, and this process, like any other process, takes time. So I've seen it clearly myself from 2004 onwards, since I've been playing for India. There's been a clear shift in the way the process is going in the positive side. So let's say now, back then, the coach was my fitness trainer, he was my mental coach, he was my nutritionist, he was my father, all in all, so that's how it works. But now there are specific people who are, well trained and knowledgeable in those specific fields, and they are helping us do our best so that we can just concentrate on our training and improving our skill. So this is the process in which, it's the Western world or the other sporting nations have been very specific and very goal-oriented in this way. And now I do see a clear sense of professionalism in the last 10 years or so. Like Sathiyan said, from an extracurricular industry, it's become a professional industry where people are able to support it with, with the wholeheartedness. So I think that's very important that we continue in this direction, and with the ability to have lot more exchanges, like as Sathiyan said, lot more exchanges where we are able to go somewhere and train, and them coming here. The access to knowledge has to be bigger, which will help us grow.
Thank you. Sathiyan, world beater, so how long do you think? Any one issue you think needs to be addressed urgently by all the stakeholders, including administrators, media, and the spectators? Any one major agenda you'd like to talk about?
I mean, at the top level, you mean to say?
Be the grassroots, and for us to become a world beater at the Olympics on a global level, consistently performing. We are doing it, I think. I've written enough about Sathiyan and Sharath, so.
In sports, you can never, nothing happens urgently or immediately. You take up a first standard kid and tell him you have to go to the college next day. It doesn't work like that, So, you have to definitely go first standard, second standard. That's how it works. So, sport works the same way. We are at the top, knocking the doors of definitely an Olympic medal, and certainly we need to have more competitions also at the top level to constantly gauge how we are playing, and have more training along with the top players, having more experience and exposure to different kind of conditions. I think we're going in the right direction. We have, of course, few years behind what Western countries and China has done. And you start in 2020, and it's like you can't do what they have done in 20 years in 2 years. It doesn't work like that. But certainly we are, I think, on a fast forward mode. Indians are known to do things much faster and much quicker. So we are getting there in a much faster pace. So yes, having to train in bigger halls, to feel like home when you go to a bigger competition is very, very critical. So to be in that arena and to feel like you've been here when you play in Olympic Games, then you actually can perform much, much better. So I'm sure government is doing a great job now. They see sports, in a wholehearted way, like not just, a few months before on a big event, they support, but it's been on a regular basis. And I'm sure in few years down the line, you'll see more of them, aspiring to win medals at the bigger events.
Thank you so much, Sathiyan. Mariyappan, என்ன திங்ஸ் மாற்றணும்னு நினைக்கிறீங்க நீங்கள்? இவ்வளோ ரெண்டு ஒலிம்பிக்ஸ் பார்த்துட்டீங்க. ஒரு மேஜர் இஷ்யூன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா மோர் நேஷனல் காம்படிஷன்ஸ் வேணுமா? எப்படி என்ன பண்ணணும்னு நினைக்கிறீங்க? இன்னும் இந்தியா பேரால நல்லா பண்ணணும்னா?
பார்த்தீங்கன்னா பேரால பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நம்ம காம்படிஷன் முன்னாடி ஒரு 5 days முன்னாடி ஒரு 10 days முன்னாடி தான் ட்ரெயின் பண்ணுறாங்க. அப்படி வந்து பண்ணக்கூடாது. இப்போ வந்து ஒரு 1 year 2 years முன்னாடி இருந்தே நம்ம ஒரு அதில் வந்து நம்ம கோல்டு அடிக்கணும், ஒரு அச்சீவ் பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லி முன்னாடி இருந்தே நல்லா ட்ரெயின் பண்ணி அதுக்கு வந்து ஒரு கோலாகவே எடுத்துகிட்டு நல்லா ட்ரெயின் பண்ணால் கண்டிப்பாக அவங்க வந்து கோல்டு அடிப்பாங்க.
Thank you. Floor is open for questions. So. Okay, time is out, I think so. Anyway, thanks a lot, panelists. Thank you, Ramesh, Sharath, Sathiyan, and Mariyappan. It was an enlightening.